Now then, we're on with chainsaws today. We've got a 440 here, and the feedback is it's not a reliable starter and it cuts out occasionally. So we're going to have a look, but before that I think we could just have a little story of things from the past. Just need to get a spark plug. Right, so we were running a single wind blow course a few years ago, probably 10 years ago now. Anyway, there was a guy on the course from an ARB company, and his saw wasn't very reliable. And of course most ARB companies, you know, they use saws that are too big. Ground saws, that is. Anyway, so he said, oh yeah, it's been maintained, la 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 la. Yeah. So he looked at the air filter and it was almost blocked. So yeah, that assertion that it had been maintained was clearly up to their standard. Yeah. Anyway, we took the plug out and it looked fine. Yeah. Yeah, it didn't look bad. A bit black round the outside because it'd been running a bit weird. And then I turned it upside down like that, and the central electrode just dropped down. So it's obviously broken within the porcelain or something like that. So it just goes to show that don't trust your spark plug. Yeah, because yeah, a lot of the times, like those 362s that I had a go with a few months ago, or it might have been a year ago now, a lot of the problems there were down to the spark plug and the cap. So that's the first thing I'm going to have a look at with this 44. So let's investigate. Right then, let's have a go at this. Well, first of all, half the air filter's missing, so that doesn't help. And we've got quite a lot of dust around here, so that's a tricky one. It could be because half the air filter's missing. Of course, the other side of that is that you'll get loads of dust if the chain's not sharp enough. So I did do a video on that sort of thing. I think it's called chainsaw abuse. If I remember, I will put a link or a card or an end screen or whatever you call it at the end of this video to go to that chainsaw abuse video. Anyway, so let's have this off. So obviously it won't run quite as well with the part of the air filter missing. And of course there is a, just there, in there, that goes straight into, there's a little duct there that goes straight into the bottom of the diaphragms. So I've known in the past where the bottom diaphragm, the pumping diaphragm, or is it the float diaphragm? It's the one that operates the fuel needle, effectively the float needle, the input needle. So therefore it'll be effectively the float diaphragm. You get build-up of dust underneath it, and so therefore it stops it moving sufficiently to the point where it restricts the fuel flow. So that could have happened here because you've got unfiltered air and you can see lots of muck in there. So the diaphragm I'm talking about is the one on the bottom there. Anyway, let's carry on. So we've got to take the plug off now, and now sometimes these can be a right, if they haven't been off for a long time. Oh, that's not too bad. So I'm looking at the ferrule, and it's a solid ferrule, which is fine, so it's not come loose, but it does look, I wouldn't say it looks bright, put it like that. So maybe we're not making contact all the way round. So we'll take this plug out and then we'll have a look at it. So I've given that a bit of a clean, and I'm just going to brighten this up. This doesn't seem too mucky, so that's not so bad. Okay, now I don't know whether we can zoom in enough. No, we can't. But that central electrode, it's a little bit rounded, just there. If you see that shiny bit on the central electrode, that's a rounded edge. But let's check the gap. So it wants to be 0.6. No. Somebody's closed it up to or guessed. Wants just a little bit. That's better. That's 0.6 of a mil. So we're getting there. Really, I think we ought to change this plug, but for the purposes of this video, we'll try it. So we've cleaned that out, we've gapped it, we've cleaned the central around the electrode, and there was a bit of carbon in amongst there. So that's that. So all we need to do now is just squeeze the spring in the plug cap a little bit, and that'll do. Come on, you devil. So this is an MS440. It looks like it's 2003. So all you do now is just give that a bit of a squeeze, and then make sure that it's all in line. Really quite tricky, these things. There, it's gone on. So whilst we're here, I think I'd better take this carburettor off. Now, it's a long time since I've done one of these, so let's just wing it a bit. I know we've got to undo those, and we've probably got to remove this throttle link. Oh, and take the fuel pipe off from down there, and maybe a vacuum pipe. I just want to check that there's no mountains of muck and dust between the bottom plate here, which should be held on with Yeah, no, it's probably this one. Yeah, it is actually. Earlier on I might have said the bottom one, it's the top one. We just need to ease the carburettor back and undo those 4 screws. But let's just see what happens when we move this, which is a bit tight on the screws. Can we just pull this back far enough? Just pop that rubber off. Will it come back far enough to... No, it won't. Right, we need to remove this. And there's a screw under there, and it's a torque screw. Still in shot? No. There we go. And as usual, they're absolutely full of muck. It's actually torque or slot. So it's torque fitting with a slot straight across it as well. That might be it. Yeah, that's it. And it all flies apart, and there's the screw. Okay, so we just need to lift that out of there without breaking anything. Okay, so we've got the fuel pipe there. It's all a bit fiddly. I'm just pushing the fuel pipe off. There we go. Let's just have a look at that. That just hooks in there. I'm going to try and leave it in there. So let's zoom down on this carburettor now. There, can you see that lot? That effectively stops the diaphragm from working. So we'll get rid of all that lot. We don't need to take the diaphragm off, just get rid of all that lot, put it back together, and this diaphragm will then be able to move more, or have a greater freedom. So I'm just going to put that lot back together. So the carb goes on easy enough, and this rubber here sits in a little notch just in this white plastic, so you just got to line that up. Now then, where are we? Just there, there's a slot, and so therefore this, from what I remember, this is the dead man, and it just goes like that. Okay, so the spring goes in that little slot there, and then that doesn't seem to be quite right, although the trigger lock's not working at the moment. You've got to fiddle with these sometimes and just get them right. There we go. So the trigger lock now that's working properly. Good. If you just let go of that, it'll spring up and everything will fly off. So as you saw there, it's just a bit tricky to put these back together, especially if you don't do it very often. So I'll just flip this over and put this screw back in. Once I've got it threaded, it can't fire up anymore. Right, that was worth investigating, that carb. A lot of muck there. Okay, now we've got to put these two nuts back on. I can start this up now and see how it runs, but it's inadvisable to use it until we've got the rest of the air filter, or else the back of that diaphragm will get compacted yet again. And it just stops the diaphragm moving far enough. So I'm betting that this carburettor will have been adjusted to suit. So maybe the screw settings will be all wrong now. It's like when we used to do chainsaw courses. Day one was all the maintenance, and you'd be doing spark plugs and air filters and all sorts of things, and then in the late afternoon we'd be starting the saws up, and half of them wouldn't run properly anymore until we'd adjusted the carburettors, because over time the carburettors have been adjusted to blocked filters and bad plugs and all sorts of things. If a saw starts running incorrectly, then yeah, there's more than one reason why it's doing so. And just adjusting the carburetor to suit is a quick fix, but you can guarantee it will get forgotten. I'm just going to go and blow that out with the airline. Right, that's that done. There's normally a big foam thing with a, can't remember if it's plastic and a steel mesh and all sorts of things that goes on there. But let's just have a look at the clutch while we're here, or the sprocket and whatnot, and the bearing. So if the carb's like that, you can guarantee this bearing will be a bit iffy. Let's get this washer off. These can sometimes, oh, that's not too bad. They can get worn and a burr is created, then it won't come off. Wow, that's nearly new. There's hardly any wear at all there, and it's an 8 tooth, so that makes the chain go quicker. Let's just zoom in on that. There we go, 388. And as you can see, It's virtually new. So take that off. Oh, there is a little bit of grease on there, but we're going to put a bit more on, because as we all know by now, the only lube it ever gets is the lube you put on it. Chain oil doesn't get this far. And I've heard some misguided people go, oh, if it's got a nylon cage, you don't need to grease it. I don't want to be rude, okay, so, but that's tantamount to drivel. You've got Stihl needle rollers running on Stihl crankshaft and in this Stihl here, so you've got to have lube on them. Now then, we need to find where is the oil pump dry gone? Where is it? Here it is. I can just see it there. It's in line with that there. So then you line the notch up, which is there, and there's a line on there. So then the easiest way to do this that doesn't feel like it's gone in. Let's put the there and just see. There's a lot of muck on the inside of this chain brake. Let's try again. Sometimes if there, that's better, you see it's gone right in now. Sometimes if the pump quill is all very loose, yeah, it won't stay still when you turn the drum, and so it won't drop in. There's holes in here to let the muck out, and there's various thoughts about which way it should be. If you put it that way, then the holes are facing out and they're clear, so I think you should put it that way. Because if you put it the other way, then those holes are against that and the muck can't get out. Okay, put the, you probably can't see, but you put the plug spanner there and it won't behave. It's just showing me up. You put the plug spanner there like that over it and you go, and it should go. Except it, there you go. That way it doesn't fly off anywhere, especially if you're in the woods. You know, once it's gone for good. In the brambles. That should do. Yeah. And that is tight on there. Good. So now we're going to put a bar and chain on. I'm not sure whether with this bigger sprocket that a standard bar and chain setup will fit, but let's just find out. It might all be a bit tight. Normally I would drop it all on as a complete unit, but can you see how tight that is there? I have actually cleaned the grooves out of this bar. So now we need to put the side case on. I shall be taking this bar and chain off anyway, after we've tested it. And for those people who are not that familiar with putting a chain on a chainsaw, teeth facing forwards at the top, because it goes that way round. I have again had assessments where candidates have done maintenance and it's been sort of middling, and then they put it all back together, started some cross-cutting, or you get clouds of smoke, and then you get the questions, why do you think it's that? Sometimes you get, oh, there must be something wrong with the saw, I'll have to take it back to the dealers, which is a bit desperate. And the other ones go, huge amount of expletives, I've put the chain on the wrong way around. And then you go, I'm glad you noticed that. You're going to sort it out? Yeah. So you've got to give them a chance. But they've got to know what's going on. You know, it's simple enough to make a mistake when you're on an assessment. You know, you're under pressure and all that sort of thing. So you've got to allow for that. Right. I think now it's time to do the road test. It's a bit rattly, but it performs. So it's quite an old saw and it's obviously done a lot of work, but there you go. Seems to be alright now. Catch up with you soon.